Sports Petting. I'm your host, Kiev O'Neill.
And this is Kyle Hunter.
My friends, we have a great weekend of sports, and college football is definitely winding down, but there still is some games that aren't canceled, Kyle. And unfortunately, quite a few of, once again, my plays have been canceled. I was on West Virginia plus the 14. I was on Purdue big plus 11 in the money line. So, I mean, that's going to happen. I think the West Virginia game, I think they're still under COVID protocol, but at the same time, there was absolutely no reason for Oklahoma to play that game. What a terrible spot that was before their Big 12 championship, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And the big one for me is Ohio State and Michigan got canceled. I hated to see that. It was going to be another year of Ohio State beating Michigan, right? So that would have been a lot of fun. But no,
Beating them bad, too, because this was
yeah,
the
yeah.
one where Ryan Day was like, wants to hang a
Oh,
hundred
yeah.
on them because of the shit that Harbaugh talked about
Right.
before the season. And I can't exactly remember what it was, but I think it was about the way that they schedule games or something. Do you remember what that beef was?
I, I don't remember if it was recruiting or scheduling or something like that, but I remember he said he wanted to hang 100 on him. I hope that there's a cutoff because we're just going to run it up, and this would have been their chance to do it. Obviously, Michigan had a really bad season, but just as a fan, I always got really up for that game, so I hate to not get to see that game. But in general, like you said, there are quite a few games canceled. I also liked West Virginia quite a bit in that game. Um, still we have a pretty decent sized card here to talk about, and I think we can help people uncover some value.
Yeah, for sure. And I would have died to have been in that room where Ryan Day and Harbaugh were going off on each other. I mean, imagine being a fly on the wall there. That would have been fun.
Right.
Oh, God. Just gold. Let's get into some weather, man. There's some weather, I believe, in college and some trends if you have any.
Yeah, there's some significant weather this week. Your team, Wisconsin and Iowa, we've got 15 miles per hour wind. It looks like there's going to be a lot of snow in Iowa this weekend, but it'll be mainly over before the game starts. So I wouldn't think that we're going to be seeing heavy snow during the game here, but 15, 17 miles per hour wind. You could argue that doesn't matter too much because both of these teams are going to run the football a lot, but still something interesting to know. Another one, which we've seen a big total line move here, Western Michigan and Ball State. I have to tell you that this is one that really perplexed me this week because Western Michigan and Ball State are over teams. I don't think there's any doubt about that. But there's 20 miles per hour wind and expected rain during the game. Gusts to 30 miles per hour. That's significant weather, and we've seen the total go from 72 down to 65 in that one. So a full touchdown move. If you got ahead of the line move with the weather, you may be able to even hit a middle in this game. To be honest, I can't take an under with these two teams because I love the over with both Western Michigan and Ball State. At the same time, I don't really want to take an over with that kind of weather either. So it ends up being a pass for me. But there's a lot of games this week that have potential for weather. Eastern Michigan, 10 miles per hour wind and steady rain throughout the game against Northern Illinois. Another one which stands out as the single biggest weather game, I would say, is Northwestern and Illinois. That game, 25 miles per hour wind and rain changing to snow. So that is significant weather and one that you're going to want to know about for sure. The total in that one is down to 40. So, I mean, if you want to take an under 40 is a hard take. I don't think I could do that, to be honest, but that's a big weather game as well. And if you look up and down across the board, I'm not going to say every single game because we'd be here for quite a while, but the Midwest, there's quite a bit of rain, some wind, even snow in some of the places, and even in the South there's some wind this week. So I would say this is one of the bigger weeks for weather that we've had so far this year. I don't think that's really surprising given that it's going to be December 12th when these games are played.
Yeah, definitely not surprising at all. And I'll be honest with you, I did take Northwestern under 46 and a half, and it's down to 40.
Good
I mean,
crap.
I mean, I don't, and I'm not going to buy back at that number
Right.
because because I could see this to be 20 to nothing. I could see this 17 to three. I don't even know if this number can get low enough for me to buy back. So great call on the weather games, and that's how important it is. These lines come out on Sunday in a lot of books, and you should just look at the weather and you just know the direction, especially when it's going to be bad. It takes some time, but if you're serious about winning money, that's the extra steps that you have to partake in, and so that's what I do.
Yeah, it's really important, and obviously you have to be careful with some of the early weather forecasts. Unless it's across the board looking pretty bad, you don't want to make a huge play just based on that alone. What I like to do, and I imagine you do the same thing, is if the weather looks bad and I already like the game, then that's a great reason to bet the game early because I thought I already like the under, and then you see weather and you think, well, even if the weather doesn't come to fruition, I still like the under. If the weather does, then I really like the under. So I think that's a really good spot to try to look for the under in spots like that.
For sure, absolutely. And sometimes, if people are going to bet the weather, it obviously goes a little bit too far, and then you can always come back on it if you think the running games and the running defenses are so terrible. Good call. Any trends this week?
No, I'm going to give you one trend when we talk about NFL,
Okay.
but no
Okay.
other trends.
All right. Sounds good. Let's get into our first game then. We have Virginia versus Virginia Tech, and this is an awesome game for the Commonwealth Cup. I'm glad it's still on, at least right now, but this thing crept up to -3-ish for Virginia Tech. Uh, I don't know if you call it sharp. 38% of the tickets are on Virginia Tech, 52% of the money. The fact that it got to 3 says something, I guess, about it. But in my opinion, I'm not even sure if that's the side I would play in it. Virginia Tech has been just confounded with injuries this year, and they have their own issues. You have two teams going in opposite directions here. You know, Virginia has won their last 4 games. Virginia Tech has lost their last 4 games, right? So I found that interesting. Virginia Tech is still a positive .3 net yards per play. Virginia a little bit fraudulent. They are minus -0.5, and they've had some stuff go their way. What I've seen with Virginia, and the reason I was on them a couple times the last 4 games, is because I've seen how they changed their pace. They're really surprising teams. They're going a lot faster even these last few weeks, and I thought that was interesting. And it's working, whatever they're doing. Ever since I think it was the North Carolina win, they kind of got a boost of confidence there. I've been pretty impressed with that, but they still have a lot of balls that bounce their way. 79 plays per game is something to look at. But when I look at these defenses, they're giving up a lot of points and they're giving up a lot of yards. Both teams give up over 29 points per game. And they haven't really, there's some bad offenses that they played, in the ACC, as well as some of their non-conference games. What I'm looking at here, Kyle, is the over, okay? Because when I'm looking at these two teams, you're looking at a shootout here. You know that they both want to get some points, especially at the end. There's no defense that's going to be played. Virginia sets the pace, and you have a lower total of 62 or 63 for what the speed I think I project that them to play at. So I'm actually going to give this out as a play, and I found it at 62.5 right now. So I'll say even 62.5, 63, whatever you can get. What are your thoughts on this game?
Yeah, as far as the side, I don't want to bet Virginia because they've been so fortunate in so many games. And at the same time, I'm not anxious to bet Virginia Tech because they give up a ton of big plays. And I think that's what leads me toward liking your over here. Both of these teams give up a lot of explosive plays. So you're not talking about just moving the ball down the field really slowly. You're talking about big gainers, 25, 30-yard plays. That's really important when you're betting a total. If you're betting an over that's a pretty high number, you want them to be able to get it in, big gainers instead of the 5 yards at a time. So, I like the over the best of anything in this game. I think if I had to bet a side, I'd want to take Virginia Tech -2.5, but I don't have to bet a side, and I'm not going to here. I think 62.5 is a pretty good number. I have 64 for my projected total for this one, so it's not way below what I had projected, but I think this looks like a game where both teams could get quite a few yards. And, some people will say, well, it's a rivalry game, they won't score as many points. I think that's, kind of one of those those misnomers to where, in a rivalry game, they can't score a lot of points. Obviously, there's going to be some cases where that happens, but, you can't look back in the past at the numbers, and it doesn't really support that being the case. So I think that it just plays as a normal scoring game. I think the over looks like a good look here.
All right, sounds good. I'm glad we have some agreement there. I actually do lean to Virginia at the 3, though, so maybe a little disagreement right there. But
Slight.
I'm not betting the side either. So I'm going to watch this one, and hopefully it's one of those exciting total games that we get at the end of the year here, because we need some fun scoring. Let's move into another game that's not going to be scoring a lot, Kyle. And we love this game. We talk about it almost every year. Army versus Navy, the military game. And it's such a cool atmosphere watching how everyone's all dressed up and just very professional looking. It just makes you want to salute the flag when you see something like this. It makes you want to, be more responsible. It's interesting to me because you have two teams with the biggest heart in the world. These guys are giving their lives to service, and they're playing each other, and there's a lot of bragging rights, and they give a huge percentage here percentage. They give a huge, I guess, grit is what I'm trying to say. They try their butts off. So I'm gonna let you start with this one. So I'm guessing this is the one you have the trend in.
No, it's an NFL game, but I can't just say that I think it's 14 straight years that the under has won. So
That's okay.
is
So
it?
that's what I thought you would say. And,
Yeah. It's
okay.
it's. I guess at this point though, I feel like it's baked in so much at this point, because I think I won the under between Navy and Army for 8 years in a row at one point, and then they started putting the total at 41, and now they've put the total at 37 and a half. I mean, it's hard to take an under 37 and a half. It just goes against my handicapping theory as taking a college game under 37 and a half, because all you needs to take is you get a couple defensive touchdowns or special teams touchdowns and you accidentally get to 38. So who wants to bet the over though? I certainly don't want to bet the over. So I can't imagine anybody's too excited to bet the over. And in this one, obviously I've got my Army hat on, so it's maybe that means that I like Army in this one. If I had to take a side, I would like Army here in this game. I think that Navy has been so weak offensively lately. Look what they did in their last two games against Memphis and then Tulsa. They can't move the ball at all. And Army knows what's coming here. So I can't imagine Navy's going to have much success on offense. If you want to take an under here, you might want to look at a Navy team total under. Those usually come out on Saturday morning. So that would be my lean if you like the under, just to take the Navy team total under. I'm going to say that I like Army. I don't think you can get better than -7 at this point. I kind of hate laying 7 at 37 and a half points, but that would be the side I'd lean to here, because I think Army can move the football just very methodically, and I don't know that Navy can even move the ball down the field much in this one. So I'm going to take Army -7 as my side in this game.
Army's defense has definitely stepped it up from last year. They go from these teams. For some reason, they go from terrible to pretty good in a year. I mean, remember last year with Navy? They were awesome. Malcolm Perry was amazing. I thought he was going to have a little bit better of a shot as like a slot type receiver or something in the NFL. I'm not even sure if he's on a roster, maybe he's on a practice squad or something like that. I haven't checked lately. I thought the Patriots might have been trying him out or something. But this game, Army has the better resume, but their strength of schedule sucks. And you look at some of the teams they played, Middle Tennessee State, they played and it blew them out. I think they played Monroe too, right? Or something like that. I have to look at their exact schedule.
They did, yeah.
But at least Navy played the American Athletic Conference. You're not going to see a lot of ranked teams in there because they just beat each other up, is what they did all year. So it kind of took them out of the rankings. A loss in the AAC is worse than a loss in the Big Ten. But I would put up UCF and Tulsa, of course, and not Memphis maybe, but definitely Cincinnati against any Big Ten team minus Ohio State, I would find that a very interesting matchup, as well as any SEC teams instead of LSU or Alabama, Florida, and Texas A&M. I would put them against them and possibly think they might win. I hope that the AAC gets some good bowl berths, because I think they're better than what people think. So you're looking at a schedule here, according to Sagarin. Army's is ranked 131st and Navy's is ranked 70th. Army's about even in net yards per play. I think they should be a little bit higher. They struggled against Georgia Southern a little bit, mostly because of fumbles. Navy is negative 1.6 yards per play, so that's pretty bad. I agree Navy's defense is just Jekyll and Hyde. It's not nearly as good. But one thing about these academies is that they really step it up for this game. And there's going to be some tricks up their sleeves here for this game on both sides, in my opinion, which is fun to watch. I think the 7's getting a little high. I'm going to lean 7, but I'm not going to take it. I'll tell you this. If I'm up by the time this game starts and it's at 7.5, I might throw a little bit of money on Navy.
So we'll say that this one is for bragging rights for the show, because I don't think I'm going to bet Army -7, but I'll be rooting for Army -7, and you can root for Navy. So
all right.
Yeah, just for bragging rights.
Let's do that. For bragging rights, for sure. All right, let's move on to the next game. I think Kyle just dropped out, so see if he's back on. Yep, there's Kyle. And we are going to actually go into a basketball game here. And Florida versus Florida State is on the docket. There's not a ton of big basketball games on, but I definitely wanted to pick one since we're moving into basketball season. You back there, Kyle?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yep, you sound great. And I'll start out with this one. Florida State, I'm projecting laying -3, and I can just project it based on power ratings or just looking straight at KenPom because that's what the bookmakers are making. I have the total probably they're going to make it around 141 is my guess. Is that fair, Kyle?
Yeah, 140, 141, somewhere in there.
That's what I think. And, looking at these teams, Florida State has won last year, and Kyle, you told me earlier, 5 in a row, something like that. I think that's a pretty big trend here with them. Just keep beating Florida. Why is that?
I think it's 6 in a row. That's kind of surprising me because Florida's had a pretty good program during that time, and Florida's been favored in several of those games. So Florida State's really done well against them. You would think that Florida would have had to have this game circled, right? Why wouldn't they? I mean, they've lost that many times in a row. Florida going to Florida State. This is a huge game for both of these teams. Florida had that pause at the beginning of the season, so they didn't play as much. They've played 3 games. They played Army, Boston College, and Stetson. You can't really get much out of the Army or the Stetson game. Boston College, a 20-point win. I think that's pretty impressive. Boston College isn't a bad team. Florida's pushing the pace a lot more this year, so that's something that I wanted to say. They are 20th in average possession length this year. Last year they were ranked 237th. So like to talk about tempo changes, and I think that's one that you should note for this year. Certainly Florida State always wants to play fairly quickly, but they're better at defense than they are at offense. They always have a lot of length, shot blockers. We know that. Florida State coming off that win against Indiana in overtime in their last game, 69-67 in overtime. I have to say that I think the pace in this game will be pretty quick, but I'd be worried to take an over because I think the shooting might not be that great either. So, maybe if enough people talk about how fast they're going to play, the number will get high enough that I could take an under. As far as the side, I'm going to lean to Florida here. I don't know that I'll bet this, but Florida has to want this game really badly. They've lost to this team so many times, and a lot of them have been very close games. Florida should be a dog here, 3.5 points or something like that, I would say. So if you can get Florida plus 3.5 or 4, that's my lean in this game.
Oh, good call. Looking at Florida, you're right, 14.6 seconds per possession there. I mean, that's pretty low. I mean, so you think it's pretty fast is what I'm trying to say. It's low compared to how many seconds they're actually holding the ball. Army, it's not like Army plays fast. It's not because of that. It's not like Stetson plays fast. Boston College plays a little fast. So you're right. There's definitely a pace change here. Florida State definitely the better defense. You've been watching them all last couple of years under Hamilton there. That's what he does. Defense and turnovers. Florida's a better shooting team, and it's you can't tell yet. I mean, there's not a big enough sample size, but I mean, if you look at the past, defense turnover, they rank 20th. Opponents turnover, they take care of the ball. They rank 14th. They're not letting the ball go. That's really interesting to me too. If you look at the history here, their defense was ranked 15th last year, right? I mean, that's pretty good. Florida's defense was ranked 61st last year. So, that's why there's some differences right there. One thing to me, and I look at this, Florida lost Kerry Blackshear and Andrew Nemhard. FSU lost more. They have three big losses with Patrick Williams, Devin Vassell, and Trent Forrest. As you know, Patrick Williams was a draft pick, number 4 pick by the Chicago Bulls. So that's really interesting. I think they lost more, but I think they gained a little bit more too because their number one recruit was number 5 in the nation, named Scotty Baines. And Scotty Baines is a very, very good player so far for him. He's actually starting to get more playing time, 63.5% of the minutes. Sorry, Scotty Barnes, I said Baines. And that's Florida State. They're going to get some great players over there. It looks like they're looked at as a much better basketball school, and that's why you're going to see about a 3.5 point spread here. As far as me, unfortunately, I don't have a lean on any side of this game. I'm completely neutral here. But I will say 3 points looks right to me. So if for some reason you're seeing it at 4 or 5, I don't see why not putting a little bit of a bet on Florida, Kyle.
Yeah, I think this will be interesting because I was just kind of looking across, some of the different sites that project the number here. We have some as big as 4.5 and some as small as 1. So it'll be interesting to see what kind of number comes out in this one. I just think this will be a close game. So I'd be inclined to take 3.5 points or 3 points. I wouldn't want to take +1. I wouldn't want to take +2. So we'll see what kind of number comes in this one. I think that this should be a good game. I think that Florida State is probably a slightly better team, but I think that Florida should be supremely motivated for this game. And if we see Florida show up and lay an egg in this one, I'd be really concerned about their team going forward because, I mean, they should really be up for this game.
For sure. Well, we'll be watching this one. As far as your most likely dog to win outright, Kyle. We missed it last week, but we got a ton of them so far this year, or a good amount of them. You're definitely up. So remember, with -3.5 or better, it has to be. I'm scared that we have the same one, just like I talked to you before the show. So I'm going to let you go first, and I'm going to tell you if it's mine.
I've decided to go big or go home on this one, so we're gonna. I don't know if we'll agree. If we agree on this big of an underdog, it'd be pretty impressive.
Arkansas, right? Arkansas versus Bama.
No, not that one. No, that wasn't even close to it. That was an easy game to pass on as far as betting this week. No, I'm going to take Illinois. Lovie Smith here against Northwestern. If you look at this game, why would Northwestern be extremely up for this game versus the game they play next week? They're going to play Ohio State next week. This game's played in a rain/snowstorm, tons of wind. The only thing Illinois can do is run the football. So it doesn't really matter to them that they can't throw it around in the wind and snow and rain. Because Illinois doesn't want to throw the ball anyway. So Northwestern, a team to me that can't get margin, because they're not very good on offense. You give me a total of 40 and you give me a huge underdog. I'm going to take Illinois here with a chance to win this game. Now, I guess if we say most likely underdog to win outright, I probably would have said somebody else. But I think this is a number that is big enough that it's really worth a bet here. I'll take Illinois.
That is a big one, man. And they were up against Iowa 14-0 last week, and we were unfortunately on them +13, +12.5, something like that. And they let 5 touchdowns happen. But they got to the red zone a couple times during that. They should have covered that game. They really should have. And Iowa was just in that, in the zone. But this is a bigger game for them. And I think that Iowa got better. And I think Northwestern's probably about the same or a little worse. They did lose to Michigan State here. So this thing is not impossible at all. I definitely love the pick there, Kyle. And Lovey's going to have his defense ready for this game too. All the snow and all the rain that possibly is going to come and the wind, that football is going to be bouncing, right? There's definitely some turnover potential in this game. Well, I'm glad that it wasn't the one I picked though, Kyle. So
Are you taking a big dog too, or?
I'm taking a semi big dog, and I
Okay.
know that the quarterback Shy Wirtz is out this game. Well, he's not out actually; he's questionable. They said I seen one somewhere he's doubtful, but he could still play. I'm taking Georgia Southern here. I'm taking Georgia Southern to beat Appalachian State outright. I mean, Georgia Southern's got their number. They've beaten Appalachian State when they were much bigger dogs than this the last 2 years. They won two in a row. For some reason, Appalachian State cannot stop the option. And with their coach Clark, which is only 1 or 2 years under, I don't know if he's going to be able to do it either. It's a team that they just can't figure out. And for some reason, Georgia Southern's up for this game. They love playing Appalachian State, and they play very, very hard. You're going to see a lower total in this game. They're 9.5-point dogs here on most of the books. So, in my opinion, they could win this outright. And I'll tell you about Appalachian State. They lost to Coastal Carolina. They blew the game against Louisiana. What the heck are they playing for here at Georgia Southern? What kind of motivation do they have? I like Georgia Southern, and you're looking at plus 270 right now for the money line here. So we got a couple big ones, man.
Yeah, I mean, if we could hit one of these, it'd be a great weekend, right? So
Yeah.
you take that big of an underdog. If you hit one, it'd be great. I was gonna guess. I'll just be honest. I was gonna guess that you were gonna take Troy against Coastal Carolina. So that I wouldn't have been right, but it is a bad spot for Coastal Carolina, to be fair. So I don't really think Coastal Carolina will lose. But it's funny that I was thinking a Sun Belt game that was other than the one that you picked. But I do agree with you. Appalachian State is a team that has had such high expectations every single year, and now they disappointed all season. And then you want them to get back up for this game. You would think that this game means a lot more to Georgia Southern. So I like your play as well.
All right. Well, there you go. Uh, I thought about Troy a little bit. They've showed really bad this year, but this is the worst spot for Coastal Carolina. They're in a grand salami sandwich right now after beating BYU and next week having to play for their championship against Louisiana, correct? So Lafayette.
Yeah.
So they're in literally a spot where they could be jumped, and they don't have that great a talent compared to everybody else. They did the most with their talent, and their talent probably is a little bit better than Troy. Troy's going to play some football this game, so I don't know. Parlay all those three together, see what you get, Kyle.
That's living dangerously
That's
right
living
there.
dangerous. That's your fun money right there. Oh, your date
Right.
canceled? Well, there you go. Play a parlay.
Right.
Let's move into a little NFL then, bud. A couple big games. There's a Ravens game. I didn't want to cover the Ravens game because I think that we've covered the Ravens plenty of times already. There's two other big games that I really like and discuss with you to cover. We'll start with Minnesota versus Tampa Bay. And the line on this one, I can shoot up over to my screen, switch to the NFL. I'm about 6.5. It's probably 7 in some books. Buccaneers, there it is. At minus 112, I don't love that. But, you're looking at it, you got a little bit more money on the Vikings. 38% of the tickets, 42% of the money. I guess money difference, you still have more money on Tampa at 58%. No, there's no sharp side on this game. It straight up is what it is. But I have some thoughts on this one. I'm going to let you go first.
So before the line came out for this game, I would have thought I wanted to take Tampa Bay here. I'm surprised it's 6.5 with extra juice on Tampa Bay. I feel like that's a pretty expensive price for them in this one. I know that they're off a bye. Minnesota has not really played very well. Like people are going to say they're 2-1 in their last 3 games. That's great. Look who they played.
Mm-hmm.
I mean they've barely beaten the teams that were really bad. They were actually pretty fortunate to beat Jacksonville last week, and obviously they lost to Dallas there a couple games ago. So Minnesota, I don't know that they're in as good a form as some people would say. At the same time, Tampa Bay is laying a big number here against a team that's not really that bad. I will say that, you had me look at this before the show as far as Tom Brady. What's Tom Brady done ATS? Overall ATS, he's a little bit above 60%, which not really surprising. Obviously, that was with the Patriots. Um, you know, as far as this game, I have to say Brady is coming off that bye, and I can't look on Bet Labs as to whether it's just off a bye or the beginning of the year. So if I say a line where Tom Brady is 2 weeks or more to get ready for the game, or 10 days or more to get ready for the game, technically is what it is. Brady has done really well in that spot. He's a 19-9 ATS now. 19-9-2, so two ties there, but he's always a favorite in this role. We know that because, Brady's teams have been really good. They're favored again here, but he's not with New England this time. I like Tampa Bay pretty well, but they've been inconsistent enough that I'm scared to lay 6.5 points with them here. So I don't have any strong feeling on this one. So hopefully you like something a little better than I do.
Um, Oh, I looked at this inside outside algorithm, freaking power ratings. I tried to find something.
Yeah.
I didn't find a lot. I couldn't get it over the 6.5. I got my power ratings have this at 5.25, giving Tampa 2 points for home field, something like that. It was either 2 or 2.3. Can't remember. I have to look at the chart that I have. But you give them a point for the bye is what I would normally do. So that brings you close to 6.5 right there. Football Outsiders has Tampa third, and which is interesting. They've been on free fall mode, and you wonder, wow, Tampa's still third on DVOA. And if you don't know, DVOA is pretty much it measures your efficiency. It looks at the yards in plus territory, giving you more than the yards in minus territory, because that's true in football. The yards in plus territory are worth a lot more. So I do like how they come up with some of their efficiencies. It's defensive value over average is what it stands for. I like the site and I use it, but it doesn't give you lines and it doesn't tell you what a line should be. That's up to you, right? That's up to the handicapper there. One thing I did notice is I'm looking at the strength of schedule. Tampa Bay's ranks fifth in all of the NFL, and Minnesota's only ranks 28th. And if you look at some of the tough teams that Tampa Bay played, you see why that is. I was actually on Tampa when the Rams came and visited them, and the Rams kicked their butt. They don't have the Saints number for some reason. The Saints are beating them. Kansas City, that's a tough game. At least they came back and covered that game, and that was a week and a half, 2 weeks ago, right, Kyle? So,
Yeah.
it's tough with this one. I ran the numbers through my algorithm and gave them the extra point, and I came up with 6. One thing I will say is I don't see them losing to Minnesota. They could get backdoored, and I'm not even saying that I'm not gonna not bet this if this gets down a little bit more. But I like the teaser with this. I think you tease a home favorite of 6.5 down to 0.5. You go past the 6, the 4, the 3. It's not a terrible teaser candidate. I know a lot of people say 7.5 because you get down to 2.5, but hell, I don't mind this as a teaser candidate. You're just asking them to win the game. I guess a tie would only break it. And then maybe teasing with Green Bay at Detroit, which will bring them down to 1.52. That's what I gave out in the podcast earlier this week. So teasing with something like that. Teasing with the Titans. The Titans are at the Jaguars at 7.5. That's not a bad look either. So I think that's the best play that you can have with this. I have no feeling on the total whatsoever. If I look at my screen here, the total is 62% to the over, 88%. So 62 bets, 88% of the money. And it didn't move. It actually went down from where it really opened. I think it's really close to 47 right now. It opened around 47.5. So I have no opinion whatsoever on the total. But this is going to be a good game. And one thing I want to point out is Minnesota is missing their linebacker, most likely, in Eric Kendricks. He's highly questionable. A lot of people say he's not going to play. And that's their Mike linebacker. He calls the plays on defense. So that makes me... that might put me over the edge to bet it, but I didn't bet it right now. Kyle, any final thoughts?
I think you were looking at a different game for the total. I think you're looking at the next game
Oh,
we're going to
sorry, I was
talk
looking at.
about.
Oh, I was looking at the Bills. What is the?
Yeah. The total here is 52 and a half. We got 68% of the bets on the over and 52% of the money. Um, I don't have any lean on the total either. So
Okay.
I'm gonna say that I kind of agree on the teaser. I really like the Green Bay teaser leg that you mentioned. So that's probably my favorite teaser leg for this weekend is Green Bay. So I'll find somebody to pair that one up with here this week. I don't know that I'm gonna bet this game in any way. So let's talk about this other big game we've got here.
All right, sounds good. And yes, that total was actually so close to that one. I moved it to the Bills and didn't notice. But as you can see, the total for the Bills is it's a little bit higher right here at 52 and a half. The game we were going to talk about first was this one. But either way, I got to tell you, I am not touching the total on this game at all. The Bills one's a little bit more interesting. Let's move into that one, Kyle. I'm going to let you start on the Bills here. What a big game after Pittsburgh lost.
Right. So I have a little more thoughts on this game. I'll say that, Pittsburgh had been, what would we call them? I mean, they were undefeated, but we knew that they weren't the best team in the NFL. They're one of those teams that you can't say that they're bad. I mean, they're clearly a good team, but their record was better than what they are. They had enough flaws that it doesn't seem like, they were an undefeated team. The Steelers, to me, are a good defense, but right now they have a lot of injuries on defense. And I think that's something that probably not enough people are talking about. Their linebackers are not nearly as good as what they started the season with. And I think that hurts them quite a bit. If you look at Buffalo, Buffalo was expected to be a really good defense before the season. They started the year not being good at all on defense, and they've been a lot better on defense the last few games. The other thing about this game is, Josh Allen had a lot of detractors in the past, right? Everybody would talk about Josh Allen, boy, he's overhyped. He's been really good. I think it's about time we say Josh Allen. I know he can make some bad mistakes, but Allen is a good quarterback, and he has some really good weapons around him. I don't think the Steelers can just stop Buffalo here. I think Buffalo is going to score their points. So then you look at the other side and you say, are the Steelers going to be able to consistently keep up? I'm not convinced they can in this one. I like the Buffalo side in this one. If you look at the Steelers' offense has been really inconsistent. They've had a lot of drop passes. The Steelers also, their offensive line is a pretty good offensive line. Roethlisberger, he is what he is at this point. I don't think he's a great quarterback. He's not a huge liability or anything either. I think Allen's a good quarterback now, like I said, and the weapons around him, he has some really good wide receivers. I know they don't have a very good running game, but I don't know that they need to run it that much here. I think they can throw the ball quite a bit. And I don't like the spot either for Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh coming off that first loss, people could say, well, they bounced back from that, but they hadn't been playing very well even before that first loss. They had been pretty fortunate to be at that point. This is a really big game for Buffalo. Buffalo could really prove a point here if they win this game. Buffalo still has a decent home field advantage even in this year's NFL. Obviously, it's not what it would be. But I like Buffalo in this one. I think 1.5, 2. I think it's a fair price for Buffalo. Obviously, I would have rather had the look-ahead line or what the opener was at Pick'em, but it's still at a number where I think Buffalo is worth a play.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And just to get started here, you look and it's even 41% of the tickets are on the Steelers and 41% of the money, but it's been bouncing around and it hasn't hit in 3 at all. If you look at the total, I guess this is what I was saying before, but my mind shifted to the Bills somehow. Had that brain fart. Is that I'm not going to touch it because it opened around 47.5 and it's still close to that. 47 is what I'm seeing in most books. It seems like a lot of people like the over here. Now I'm not touching it because the Steelers have such a great defense, but I see why people are betting the over. And just change right there. You can see so many Steelers are injured this game. I mean, a ton of them on defense here. I think Joe Hayden, he's under concussion protocol. As you know, they lost Devin Bush already earlier in the year. Their other 2 linebackers, Bud Dupree is missing, I believe. And I think that Robert Spillane's going to miss. I mean, there's a ton of defense out. So that kind of goes towards your theory with the Bills. I agree with you 100% here, and I'm making a play on the Bills. The weird thing about it, I have it pick them in my power ratings, but you see 2 teams, that are going in different directions. I think the Bills are hyped up. This is a big spot for them. It's about time they're going to capitalize on having a prime time spot, right? I think that sorry, I had a phone call. I think that the spot for the Bills is great because they're going to prove that they are a serious contender, right? That's important to me. And I think that low spread is just going to tell you. I take the spread at -2, -2.5. I had no problem doing that. If you want to feel really safe, just take the money line. But there's my thoughts on it.
Yeah, I like Buffalo here. I think this is a pretty strong look. Not saying the Steelers are a bad team, but I think Buffalo is a little bit better team than a lot of people think. And this is a spot for them to prove it. So this is a really big game for the Bills. I would think you get an A effort from them, and so we'll agree and like the Bills here a good amount.
All right. So as far as free picks, this one will be one of mine. And I'm also going to give you, just like I said before, the Virginia over 62.5, 63 game. And Georgia Southern, take the dog and the money line there. I think just put a little bit more on the spread, but not +9, +9.5, and then put half of that on the money line just to cover yourself, and you'll be having a pretty good day. Any other picks, Cal?
Yeah, I'm going to take USC and UCLA over 62 for my free play for this week. UCLA's defenses look pretty good this year, but they haven't really faced very many good offenses. And I think the pace that this game will be played at, 62 is a fair number. We have good weather in this game, as you normally would in a UCLA and USC game. But, USC has a really good passing attack, and they've played it a bit conservative in some of their recent games because they haven't had to score a lot of points. I think UCLA can run the ball enough on them here that USC will have to score points. I think we see quite a few points here in the Rose Bowl, USC and UCLA.
All right, well, that could be a shootout for sure. I talked about that a little bit. Both defenses have improved, but this game went to 87 points last year, so that's a ton of points there. Cool. Any other last thoughts for this weekend?
No, I mean, I think it's a pretty good card, a decent amount of value. I will say I have less plays in college football than what I usually would. At the end of the season, I usually have less plays. Beginning of another season, so college basketball, I'm going to have more plays than I am in college football. So, and I will give a quick plug here for I'm 12-2 in my last 14 plays. I always say whether I'm winning or whether I'm losing, it's been a nice week here. Certainly been able to make some good money. I'm going to have college football card up here for this weekend. Like I said, it's smaller than average. I will have quite a few plays in college basketball this weekend, and then NFL as well, where I had really been slumping in NFL and finally had a nice 6-1 week last weekend. So it's been a good week. You can check everything out at huntersportspicks.com, and if you don't want to buy something, you can sign up for the free picks newsletter over there. Both the free plays won last weekend, so hopefully we can have another good week with those.
Yeah, make sure you check Kyle out and check us out at the Odds Breakers. We actually had a free subscriber play hit with Marshall I believe on Wednesday night was that, and they covered very easily against Austin. So really excited to give out those free plays. If you don't want to be a premium, if you want to be a premium, obviously you get the games that I bet when I make those plays. And so check us out. Everyone, if you have a great weekend, if you have any other games you'd like us to cover for next week, we have a huge week of championship games, guys. It's going to be a ton of fun. So make sure you tweet us at the Oddsbreakers. Tweet Kyle at Kyle Hunter Picks. Have a great rest of your week.